They tied his hands behind his back and made him choose a shovel or a rifle. It was April 1999, deep in the Kono district of Sierra Leone, a place that once sparkled with diamonds, now soaked in blood. The rebels had arrived before dawn. They killed the chief. They burned the school. Then they pointed to the youngest boys and said, "You work, or you die." Screams echoed through the trees. Some tried to run. Others were too afraid. But it didn't matter, because the mines would keep running, and the diamonds would keep flowing. All the way to London, to Paris, to wedding rings sold in bright stores, bought with blind eyes. This isn't a movie. It's a true story. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end, because the truth buried in that soil is still alive. April 6, 1992. Kono District, Eastern Sierra Leone. The sun rose early over the red hills of Kono. The ground shimmered, not with dew, but with something more dangerous. Diamonds. They were everywhere. In streams. In riverbeds. In pockets of dirt just beneath the surface. It was a place where children dreamed of becoming rich. But instead, many never made it to adulthood. Because something else was buried deeper than diamonds. War. And this time, it was coming fast. March 23, 1991. Border between Liberia and Sierra Leone. A rusted Toyota truck rumbled across the jungle trail. Inside, men with AK-47s, machetes, grenades, and smiles far too wide. They called themselves the RUF, the Revolutionary United Front. But they weren't there to free anyone. They were trained in Libya. Supplied by Charles Taylor, the warlord from Liberia. Fueled by greed. Powered by diamonds. Their mission, take the land. Take the mines. Take everything. And they had a plan. Start with fear. March 25, 1991. Bomaru, Eastern Sierra Leone. The first shots came at dawn. By noon, the village was gone. Men were tied to trees. Women were taken. Children were forced to watch. Then, the rebels left behind a message. "We are the new government. Obey us, or vanish." The people ran. To the hills. To the cities. To nowhere. But there was nowhere to hide. Because this war wasn't about politics. It was about diamonds. And diamonds. They don't care who dies. Name, Fode Sonko, age, 54, role, leader of the RUF. He wore sunglasses indoors. Spoke softly, almost kindly. But behind his smile was a mind twisted by revenge. He had once trained in the UK. He failed as a soldier. Failed as a photographer. Failed as a man. But now, with diamonds in reach, he would succeed as a warlord. He told his fighters, "Take the land. Take the mines. Cut the hands of those who resist. Let fear be our fuel." And they listened. May 1991, February 1992. Across eastern Sierra Leone. The government was weak. The army was broken. The president fled. The RUF spread like wildfire. They didn't just kill. They cut off hands. They forced children to fight. They used diamonds to buy guns. And the world watched. And said nothing. Because the diamonds kept flowing. Freetown ports, Belgium diamond markets. Traders in London, Brussels, and Tel Aviv received parcels. Unmarked. Untraceable. Gleaming. They called them alluvial diamonds, pure, river-mined, clean. But those diamonds were paid for with blood. With villages. With children's screams. With amputated arms. But in polished offices far from Sierra Leone. No one asked where they came from. They just said, "Business is booming." Name, David Conte, age, 12, location, outside Koidu. David was playing soccer when the rebels came. They burned his ball. Shot his cousin. Took him into the bush. He was given a machete. Pointed at a man. And told, "If you want to live, swing." He did. And from that day, David was no longer a boy. He was a soldier. RUF called him Spider. He never saw his mother again. And there were hundreds like David. Stolen. Brainwashed. Turned into killers. Not because they wanted to, but because the world gave them no other choice. 1998. Resolution 1171. After years of silence, the United Nations finally acted. They passed a resolution banning arms sales to Sierra Leone. But the diamonds still moved freely, because no one could prove where they came from. Sonko smirked. Let them talk. I have diamonds. I have power. And he did. For now. Name, Aminata. Age, 14. Captured in Calhoun. She was fetching water when they took her. Her father begged. They shot him. They tied her wrists, dragged her 4 miles, and handed her to a commander. She became his wife, his servant, his slave. She was raped, beaten, forced to dig, and she still bore the scars. Years later, when interviewed by Amnesty International, she whispered, "I was 14. I wanted to be a teacher. They made me a prisoner." 1999. Peacekeepers are ambushed. British and UN peacekeepers enter Freetown with hopes of peace. The RAF pretends to agree, then captures 500 of them, beats them, kills some, parades their bodies in the street. The world gasps. But diamonds still sell. Because greed is stronger than grief. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. From UN reports, to survivor interviews, to diamonds still sold today. This happened. And it's not over. If real-life crimes leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. 2000. Kimberley, South Africa. Finally, after years of blood and shame, leaders met. Not in Sierra Leone, but in a clean hotel in South Africa. They formed the Kimberley Process, a global agreement to stop the flow of blood diamonds. It required certification, tracking, proof of origin. It was praised as hope. But behind closed doors, cracks were already showing. Ghana, Ivory Coast, and the global market. The rebels found ways around the process. They smuggled stones through neighbors, bribed officials, used fake papers, and even mixed blood diamonds with legal ones. The system had a name, but no teeth. And every time a couple bought a ring, they said "I do," not knowing what someone else had to lose, so they could say those 2 words. January 2001. Koidu Town, Eastern Sierra Leone. Koidu had once been rich with life. Now, it looked like a graveyard. Houses burned, schools shattered, bodies buried shallow in the earth. The rebels were gone, but they left behind silence. Children with missing limbs, widows with no homes, streets with no laughter, and under the ground, still, diamonds. The land was still rich, but the people were broken. And the question remained, who would profit now? Name, Koidu Holdings. 2003. Diamond mining resumes under foreign license. With the war cooling down, companies returned. Not to rebuild, but to mine. Koidu Holdings, a private firm linked to international interests, was granted mining rights. Locals were promised jobs. But instead, their land was seized, homes bulldozed, and security forces stood guard. Mariatu, 46, displaced farmer. They said it was legal. But I never signed anything. They took our house, our crops. They gave us nothing. Eastern Province diamond pits. Children, some as young as 10, worked under the sun. No helmets. No gloves. No pay. They stood waist deep in dirty water, shoveling mud, sifting gravel, looking for stones they'd never keep. One boy held up a diamond the size of a pebble, smiled, then handed it to a man with a gun. The war was over. But the system? Still a machine. Still grinding lives into dust. Name, Dr. Lansana Fofana. Role, Government Geologist. Year, 2004. Dr. Fofana had seen too much. He studied mining records, inspected export routes, tracked smuggled diamonds. He discovered that up to 60% of diamonds leaving Sierra Leone had no verified certificate. The Kimberley process? A paper shield. They stamp the documents. But they don't check the stones, he warned. The world wants clean diamonds. But no one wants to look at the dirt. He tried to report it. His office was raided. His computer confiscated. He was reassigned to rural work. Silenced. 2005. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Luxury stores showcase diamonds under bright lights. Conflict-free, the labels read. Certified by the Kimberley process. But those labels were based on trust, not truth. Investigators found gaps. Diamonds passing through 4 countries. Fake certificates sold for cash. Stones from Sierra Leone appearing as South African. And in interviews? Some jewelers shrugged. People don't ask. They just want sparkle. The world wanted beauty, not burden. 2006. Burkina Faso, Guinea, Sierra Leone border. Arms dealers still moved quietly. They exchanged guns for diamonds. Through forests. Through rivers. Through silence. UN reports exposed these links. But no arrests were made. Because proving it was too complicated. And prosecuting it would hurt powerful people. McKinney Safe House. 2006. Over 2,000 girls were rescued after the war. Some were pregnant. Others sick. All of them changed. Many had no homes to return to. Families thought they were tainted. So they lived in shelters. Some became cleaners. Others ran away again. Aminata, the girl taken at 14, was now 21. She sat quietly in a corner. Still afraid of loud noises. Still waking up screaming. Aminata said in 2006. The war ended. But inside me, it didn't. Name, Sori Bangura. Age, 58. Job, illegal minor. He wasn't a rebel. He wasn't rich. He was just desperate. Sori's daughter needed surgery. So he took a shovel, snuck into a closed pit, and dug. He found nothing for weeks. Then one day, a glint. A small diamond. He sold it for $35. Barely enough for medicine. And then he was arrested. Charged with unauthorized extraction. Sentenced to 2 years in prison. Leonardo DiCaprio's Blood Diamond, 2006. The movie hit theaters. Stars. Explosions. Tears. For the first time, millions saw what Sierra Leone went through. The violence. The child soldiers. The greed. Outrage followed. People asked, where do my diamonds come from? Is the Kimberley process working? Can I trust what I'm wearing? But soon, the headlines faded. And sales went back to normal. Movies stir hearts. But money controls memory. 2007. Kimberley Process Annual Review. Reps from 80 countries met. They promised better tracking, tougher audits, more transparency. But some countries refused. They said, it's too expensive. It's too hard to enforce. We're doing our best. And just like that, change died. Again. Name, Mariam. Age, 9. Kenema. She was digging near a stream. A flash of white. A diamond. She didn't know what it was, just thought it looked pretty. She gave it to her uncle. The next day, he was gone. Took the stone. Took the money. Never came back. Mariam never smiled again. Name, the Peace Diamond. Weight, 709 carats 2017. Found in Kono. Sold through official Kimberley channels. Proclaimed as a symbol of hope. But villagers said they never saw the money. No new schools. No new clinics. No jobs. Just more machines. More fences. More outsiders. Chief Paul, Kono village leader. They use our diamonds to fix their cities. While our children drink dirty water. What's worse than blood? Silence. Koidu village. 2018. Fatmata was promised a house. They said the mining company would relocate her. That they'd build homes for her family. They marked her hut with red paint. She waited. Weeks turned to months. One night, bulldozers came. Her home was gone by morning. She slept outside with her baby under a plastic sheet. The house never came. In Sierra Leone, promises crumble faster than mud walls. Antwerp, Belgium. 2018. Men in suits sat around polished tables. Charts. Forecasts. Projections. They spoke of markets. Not miners. They discussed value chains. Not the real chains that once held children in mines. They toasted success. As Sierra Leone's GDP barely rose. One investor. Conflict. Diamonds are history. The Kimberley process fixed all that. But no one asked the villagers. Or the orphans. Or the girls who still had nightmares. Name, Hawa. Age, 17. 2019. Freetown Court. Hawa's father died when a security guard fired a warning shot near the mine gates. She sued the mining company. But the case stalled. She couldn't afford a lawyer. Documents vanished. Witnesses were unavailable. Eventually, the judge dismissed it. The company said, "We followed protocol," and walked away. Justice is rare when diamonds are common. Name, Colonel Isaac. Former RUF commander. 2020. He once cut off hands. Now he wore a suit. Worked in security consulting. Had shares in a mining transport company. He smiled for reporters. Spoke of reconciliation, said he'd moved on. But the families he destroyed? Still couldn't. They still lived in fear. Still had missing limbs. Still slept with machetes under their beds. In Sierra Leone, the past never really dies. It just gets a title. And a bank account. 2021. Central African Republic, Venezuela, Russia. Blood diamonds didn't stop. They just moved. The same patterns. Same smuggling. New borders. Investigators warned. The Kimberley process is being used to launder conflict stones. But no one listened. Because the process sounded good. Felt safe. Looked clean. But beneath? Still blood. Name, Zainab Kamara. Role, local reporter. Bo, Sierra Leone. She published a story titled, "The Diamonds Still Kill." She named names. Called out corruption. Linked illegal mines to high officials. She got threats. Then her house was broken into. Her laptop was stolen. Her cousin was beaten. She stopped reporting. No one was arrested. Zainab, 2021. They want silence. And diamonds pay well for it. Name, Kimberley Reform Talks. 2022. The world met again. They added words to documents. Created new definitions. Patted each other on the back. But the core remained broken. Still no way to track stones. Still no accountability. Still no help for victims. And the diamonds? Still sold in stores. Still called clean. Name, Tamba. Age, 13. Koidu pit. He was helping his older brother dig. There were no helmets. No medical team. No warning. The walls of the pit collapsed. Tamba was crushed. They pulled his body out hours later. Buried him with a wooden cross. No media came. The mining company said he was trespassing. But his family said he was trying to eat. Name, Michael Bangali. Role, environmental lawyer. 2022. He was investigating pollution from a mining site. Fish were dying. Water was turning red. He took samples. Filed papers. Gave interviews. Then he vanished. His phone stopped ringing. His home was empty. The case was investigated. Then closed. No trace. London, 2023. A young couple smiled. They exchanged rings. Tears. Kisses. But her diamond? Came from Kono. Was smuggled through Ghana. Stamped clean. It was worn with pride. And ignorance. Diamonds are forever. So are secrets. This is not fiction. This is not theory. This is real. Every child. Every mine. Every stone. The reports are public. The pain was lived. And yet, the world keeps spying. Because we forget what shines too brightly can still burn. 2023. New York City, USA. In brightly lit boutiques across Fifth Avenue, something new was happening. Lab-grown diamonds. Man-made. Ethical. Marketed as clean. People smiled. Said, finally, no more blood. Influencers posted hashtags like #conflict-free and #guiltless-luxury. But in Koidu, nothing changed. Because Sierra Leone didn't export lab diamonds. They still dug in dirt. Still risked their lives. And those stones still sold. To people who never asked where they came from. New names don't erase old wounds. Name, Suleiman. Age, 12. Kanema District. He couldn't afford school. But he could write. One day, he mailed a letter to the president. Dear Sir, I live near the diamond mine. My father is dead. I want to be a doctor. Please help me. Weeks passed. No reply. His mother smiled weakly. Told him to dream smaller. In a country full of riches, hope is still a luxury. Chicago, USA. A wedding anniversary, 2024. A husband gave his wife a sparkling diamond ring. She loved it. But one night, while browsing online, she stumbled on a headline. Sierra Leone's diamond curse. The photo showed a girl missing her right hand, wearing a ragged cloth, standing near a pit. Behind her, a miner held a gun. The ring felt heavier. She never wore it again. Sometimes the sparkle blinds you. Other times, it shows you too much. 2024. Tonkolili, Northern Sierra Leone. The pit stretched wide. Men worked like ants. Shovels clanged. Voices shouted. A bulldozer roared. Then, silence. A cave-in. 4 workers buried alive. No rescue. No alarms. No compensation. Their families were told. They weren't on the books. Unseen. Uncounted. Unmourned. Just like the thousands before them. Name, the Kimberley process. 2024. An independent audit revealed 30% of diamonds in global markets were still unverifiable. Many conflict zones still exported stones as clean. Inspections were often skipped or faked. Yet the Kimberley process still claimed, "We are protecting ethical trade." A lie. Wrapped in certification paper. UN Insider, Anonymous. It was built to look good. Not to do good. Name, Asatu. Age, 39. Bo. Her son, Mohammed, died after inhaling toxic dust in an illegal mine. She asked a local chief, "Who will help me now?" He shrugged. "That's the price," she whispered. "Of diamonds?" He said nothing. Some answers are too heavy for words. Project, Diamond for Development Education Grant. 2022 to 2024. Millions were allocated to build schools in mining zones. Groundbreaking ceremonies were held. Photos taken. Officials praised. But the buildings were never finished. One had no roof. Another had no desks. A third, just grass and rusted metal poles. The money? Gone. No one knew where. Or maybe, no one cared. Simbaru stream banks. Age range, 8 to 14. They carry buckets. Bend for hours. Their backs ache. Their skin peels. They know what a diamond looks like. But not what school feels like. They have never held a book. Never heard of the Kimberley process. Never worn shoes. But they've held stones that sell for tens of thousands of dollars. They mine what they'll never own. For people they'll never meet. President of Sierra Leone. Independence Day, 2024. He stood on a golden stage. Flags waved. Cameras flashed. He said, "We are rich with natural blessings. Diamonds. Gold. Unity. The future is bright. But outside the capital? No clean water. No jobs. No clinics. Just bright stones. And dark lives." Name, Kumba. Age, 33. McKinney. She went to protest. Held a sign. "We bleed for your diamonds." A man in uniform told her to leave. The next morning, she was gone. Her sister filed a report. Nothing happened. The protest was never covered by media. Her children still ask where she is. Instagram. May 2025. An influencer posted a diamond ring. Caption: "Luxury with a conscience #ethical gems #forever love." Thousands liked it. No one asked where it really came from. Because if it shines, we never ask where it's been. June 2025. Source: UN Panel on Conflict Resources. The report was quiet, dry, full of charts and codes. But the truth inside? Devastating. It stated, diamond smuggling had risen again. Child labor was back on the rise. Sierra Leone's diamond exports were heavily infiltrated by unofficial networks. One line stood out. The Kimberley process has failed in its current form. Buried on page 113. Never shown on the evening news. The world ignored the warning. Because silence is easier than guilt. London, UK. Natural History Museum. Behind glass. Under bright light. Sat a flawless, 500-carat diamond. It was labeled. Unearthed in Sierra Leone. 1998. Symbol of strength and resilience. Tourists posed. Children stared in wonder. But no one asked. Whose hands pulled it out of the earth? Whose blood touched it first? What story did this stone bury? Name: Amadou. Age: 14. Freetown Youth Center. He was rescued from an illegal mine. Given a bed. A teacher. A notebook. He drew a picture of the pit. Of guns. Of blood. Of his brother who died. He said, "Diamonds made our home dark. But I still dream of light." Some truths are told in whispers. Because shouting might break the world. 2025. New transparency laws proposed. Activists pushed for reform. New tech, blockchain tracking. New rules, mandatory third-party audits. New voices, survivors finally invited to speak. For a moment, the world listened. Even the Kimberley process hinted at change. But corporations pushed back. Said it was too costly. Too complicated. The momentum stalled. And the silence returned. Koidu outskirts. They once had a spring. Then the mine expanded. Then came poison. Now, women walk for 3 hours each morning to find clean water. They pass the pit. Past the barbed wire. Past the diamonds they cannot touch. One of them, Binta, said, "We are rich in the ground. And poor everywhere else." Sierra Leone Border Station. August 2025. An undercover investigator tracked a shipment of diamonds. They were smuggled in hidden compartments. Stamped with false documents. Certified by a corrupt official. They entered Europe as ethical. Sold in Paris. Worn in Dubai. Photographed in New York. No one ever knew. Except the investigator. Who later received threats. And disappeared from the report. Truth is easy to erase. When it's written in pencil and money. Rural Sierra Leone. Funeral. A group of women gathered beneath a mango tree. They sang. Not in joy. But grief. They sang for sons lost to landslides. For daughters never found after the war. For babies who died with dust in their lungs. Their song rose like smoke. And then faded. Just like them. Name: Mariama. Age: 9. Present day. She stood barefoot in a muddy stream. A tin pan in her hands. A dream in her eyes. She didn't know the history. Didn't know the wars. Didn't know the lies. She just wanted to eat. She found a small stone. Smiled. Somewhere far away, that stone would be set in gold. But Mariama? She would remain. In the mud. In silence. In history that kept repeating. This is not fiction. This is a true story. Everything you've heard, happened. Every name, every mine, every whisper of pain, is public. You can check it yourself. But will you? Because behind every ring, is a question. Behind every sparkle, a silence. And behind every diamond, a story buried in blood. Have you heard this story before? Have you ever asked where your diamond came from? What would you do if you found out the ring on your finger cost a child their life? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next story on your screen. Or dive into our full playlist. The next truth might be even more shocking.